The United States has urged 5 allies, including South Korea, to send warships to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Seoul is responding with caution, saying it'll closely communicate with the U.S. while monitoring the situation in the Middle East. More than 200 nationals stranded in the Middle East due to flight disruptions have returned home on a military aircraft. South Korea's first airlift evacuation using a military plane of the current conflict. Netflix animated hit K-pop Demon Hunters has won the Oscar in 2 categories. It won the Best Animated Feature, and the song Golden from the film won Best Original Song, becoming the first K-pop song to win an Oscar. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. U.S. President Donald Trump has called on South Korea and 4 other nations to send ships to the Strait of Hormuz to secure vital oil routes. Seoul is responding with caution, stating it'll carefully review the request while monitoring the volatile situation in the Middle East. Our Park Junan starts us off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has called on South Korea and 4 other nations, China, France, Japan, and the United Kingdom, to send ships to the Strait of Hormuz. Trump made the comment in a social media post on Saturday, with the appeal targeting countries heavily dependent on oil passing through the strait, which carries about 20% of the world's oil. South Korea's government gave a cautious response, with the Blue House saying it is closely communicating with the United States and will carefully review and judge the matter. Officials also noted that the safety of international sea lanes and freedom of navigation serve the interests of all nations. They added that Seoul is closely monitoring the situation in the Middle East and the responses of other countries while considering comprehensive measures to protect Korean nationals and secure energy transport routes. 4 other countries have also shown similarly reserved reactions. Japan said it will make its own independent decision and is not planning any immediate naval deployment. France indicated its ships will remain in a defensive posture in the eastern Mediterranean. The United Kingdom said it is discussing various support options with allies, including possible mine detection equipment, but has not committed to sending warships. China avoided giving a direct answer, only calling for an immediate end to hostilities. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said it is quite logical to have a broad coalition of the nations of the world work to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He also said the war with Iran will certainly end in the next few weeks. With the U.S. previously describing South Korea as a model ally, Seoul may have some difficult decisions to make. Park Junan, Arirang News.
The International Energy Agency says oil from an unprecedented stockpile released will be made available immediately in Asia and Oceania. The IEA's announcement on Sunday comes after it said last week that its 32 member countries will make more than 400 million barrels available, comprising 72% crude oil and 28% oil products, to ease the global oil shock caused by the ongoing Middle East war. Stocks for the Americas and Europe will be released from late March. IEA Executive Director Fatih Birol said the measure would bring unprecedented additional volumes of oil to the market from March 16 onward. However, he stressed that the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz remains critical for the stable flow of oil. And South Korea has carried out its first military airlift evacuation since the U.S. and Israel's attack on Iran last month, bringing home more than 200 nationals stranded by flight disruptions. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
A South Korean military transport aircraft carrying evacuees from the Middle East arrived in Seoul on Sunday evening, marking the first airlift evacuation using a military plane since the Middle East conflict escalated last month. A KC-330 Cygnus multi-role aerial tanker landed at Seoul Air Base in Seongnam, just south of the capital at 5:59 p.m., bringing home 204 South Korean nationals and 7 foreign citizens from Saudi Arabia.
Now that we've made it out, I think we'll be able to stay safe. I just hope the war ends soon.
The flight was very comfortable and all of the crew members were extremely professional. They were very helpful for us. Yeah, we were originally in Kuwait, so every night that we could hear missiles, and the Korean embassy helped us with a bus to get into Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and then they arranged for this flight. So we're very grateful to the Korean government and everybody at the Korean embassy in Kuwait.
The evacuation mission, codenamed Desert Shine, was launched as thousands of South Koreans remained stranded across the Middle East due to widespread flight disruptions amid the expanding war between U.S.-Israeli forces and Iran. President Lee Jae-myung on Sunday expressed gratitude to government officials and personnel who successfully carried out the operation. In a post on X, Lee said those who had been isolated by the deteriorating security situation returned home safely aboard the military aircraft. He thanked all those who worked around the clock under difficult conditions to ensure the mission's success, calling the evacuation a meaningful achievement made possible through whole-of-government cooperation. The president noted that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of National Defense, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Air Force took part in the effort. South Korean diplomatic missions in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Lebanon also played key roles, alongside the government's Joint Rapid Response Team and the National Police Agency. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, U.S. and Chinese officials are concluding 2 days of talks in Paris on Monday, seeking to reach possible trade agreements before their two leaders meet in Beijing later this month. The talks are part of efforts to stabilize economic relations between the world's two largest economies. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
Senior US and Chinese officials are seeking to conclude preliminary talks on potential agreements on agriculture, critical minerals, and new trade mechanisms. Sources told Reuters on Monday the negotiations could lead to proposals for US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping to consider at their potential summit later this month. Led by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and China's Vice Premier He Lifeng, the delegations met for more than 6 hours on Sunday at the Paris headquarters of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. During those talks, sources told Reuters that China signaled openness to buying more US agricultural products, including poultry, beef, and non-soybean crops. The two sides also reportedly discussed access to Chinese critical minerals used in US manufacturing, including yttrium, a rare earth mineral used in jet engine turbines. US officials have said Washington will prioritize discussing access to critical minerals and expanding Chinese purchases of American goods. The technical discussions that are wrapping up on Monday are expected to focus on proposed structures to manage economic ties, including a possible US-China Board of Trade and Board of Investment. This comes ahead of an expected trip by Trump to Beijing from March 31st to April 2nd. But Trump told the Financial Times on Sunday that the visit could be delayed as Washington presses Beijing to help address tensions around the Strait of Hormuz amid the Iran conflict. In any case, the two leaders are also expected to meet several times at multilateral forums this year, including at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Meeting and the G20 Summit. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
On the economic front, the South Korean currency moved past the 1,501 level against the US dollar at the opening of trading this morning amid rising global oil prices. The Korean won started more than 7 won higher from the previous close, opening in the 1,501 range. It marks the first time since the global financial crisis in 2009 that the exchange rate surpassed 1,500 during regular daytime trading. The weakness came as global oil prices jumped overnight Sunday to above $105 a barrel on fears the Iran war could last longer. The won had also briefly crossed the key level during night trading last Friday. It was a big night for South Korea at the Academy Awards, with KPop Demon Hunters winning 2 Oscars, taking home Best Animated Feature and Best Song at this year's ceremony in Los Angeles. The song Golden from the film has now become the first K-pop song to win an Oscar. Our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo reports.
The moment Koreans have been waiting for. K-pop Demon Hunters captured the Oscar for Best Animated Feature at the 98th Academy Awards. Bursting into tears, the Korean director had this to say.
Thank you to the Academy and to all the fans who got us here. And for those of you who look like me, I'm so sorry that it took us so long to see us in a movie like this. But it is here. And that means that the next generations don't have to go longing. This is for Korea and for Koreans everywhere.
Speaking backstage, Kang also said she was proud not to have disappointed Korea.
One of the most emotional moments for me, just as a filmmaker, is watching director Bong Joon-ho win for Parasite, and the fact that we have won the best animated feature with a culturally Korean film. It just feels like we have both categories, so I just feel immensely proud and relieved.
Other nominees for the same category included Zootopia 2 and Elio. The win comes as the animated film has become Netflix's most watched movie ever since its release in June last year, with more than 500 million global views. And that followed a string of major awards this year, including Best Animated Feature and Best Song at the Critics' Choice Awards, and Best Animated Motion Picture and Best Original Song at the Golden Globes. The Netflix phenomenon also won a Grammy for Best Song Written for Visual Media, marking the first time a K-pop-themed song has taken home a Grammy. The film's main theme song, Golden, was also a winner, picking up the award for Best Original Song, while the animated trio Huntrix's singing voices, EJ, Rayomi, and Audrey Nuna, performed the track live. Another highlight was Korean actor An Yo-sup, the voice of Jinwoo from Saja Boys, who also drew attention at the ceremony after his agency said he had been officially invited by the Academy. With K-pop Demon Hunters resonating with global fans in sweeping major awards, attention is now turning to what comes next for K-pop-inspired storytelling on the global stage. 박건우, Arirang News.
In sports, South Korea's para cross-country skier Kim Yoon-ji added another historic achievement at the 2026 Winter Paralympics on Sunday, winning the women's 20-kilometer interval start race. Kim crossed the finish line in 58 minutes and 23.3 seconds to secure her fifth medal of the Games, setting a new national record for the most medals won by a South Korean athlete at a single Olympics, including the Summer, Winter, and Paralympic Games. Earlier in the competition, Kim became the first South Korean woman to win a gold medal at the Winter Paralympics after taking the women's individual sitting title in the para-biathlon. She has also collected 3 silver medals, along with her 2 top podium finishes. President Lee Jae-myung has offered an official government apology to the families of victims of the March 15 democracy movement.
대한민국을 대표하는 대통령으로서 국가 권력에 의해 큰 아픔을 겪으신 3.15 의거 희생자 유가족분들께 진심 어린 사과와 위로의 말씀을 드립니다.
Speaking at an event on Sunday to commemorate the 66th anniversary of the movement, President Lee vowed to put greater efforts into identifying those who participated in the democratic movement and ensure they receive proper recognition. He added that the spirit set a model in a time of crisis, citing the 2024 protest that resisted brief martial law as an example. On March 15, 1960, protests broke out in the southeastern city of Masan against election fraud under then-President Lee Seung-man, which resulted in a brutal crackdown on civilians. The incident triggered a nationwide demonstration in April and led to the ouster of the authoritarian government. With the decline of rural populations, elementary schools across the countryside have been shutting down, and it's only a matter of time before villages begin to fade away. But recently, a rural study program has brought new hope as students from big cities transfer to rural schools. Our Cho Young-eun has a story.
The day at this rural elementary school in Namwon City, Jeollabuk-do Province, begins with movement and laughter. Instead of going to private academies, these children rush to the gym for physical activities. Here, students enjoy skating and skateboarding and escape from academic stress.
All of us really enjoy going outside and inline skating, or riding boards or bikes.
The rural study program in Jeollabuk-do province targets small elementary schools with between 10 and 60 students and offers up to 500,000 won per month in financial support for families moving to the countryside. The number of students at this school rose from 24 to 66 this year. However, limited facilities and housing make it difficult to accept more students who wish to join the program.
Due to limited housing, we were only able to host 4 families, 12 students, which we feel a bit regretful about. Our school will continue to offer programs that keep our students satisfied and meet parents' expectations. We will keep making efforts to maintain an appropriate number of students.
Beyond the classroom, the students explore the village itself, where they are encouraged to connect with the wider community.
These elementary school students are visiting the Rural Administrative Center, where they'll meet with community leaders and residents and learn about the village as part of the curriculum.
Along the way, they stop to observe nature and learn about living organisms, even watching the principal move a beehive from a building. Students also show curiosity about rural life, asking questions and talking with official workers and even the city mayor. After school, we followed 2 children whose family came from Seoul to join the rural study program this semester. For now, they are staying at a village community center as permanent housing has not yet been arranged.
We initially applied for a 2-year stay, but we're also considering continuing through middle and high school. In Seoul, we hardly knew who lived next door, but here, the residents feel like one big family.
For many families, the rural study program is more than a temporary experience. It is a chance to rethink what education and community can look like. Jo Young-eun, Arirang News, Namwon.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Israeli officials on Sunday announced plans for direct talks with Lebanon to secure a permanent ceasefire that would lead to Hezbollah being disarmed. This follows 2 weeks of renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. In that time, more than 800 people have been killed in Lebanon and hundreds of thousands have been displaced. While Beirut is currently forming a delegation, Lebanese officials are seeking confirmation that Israel will abide by a full ceasefire to facilitate negotiations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday released a video of himself at a Jerusalem cafe to debunk rumors of his death aired by Iranian state. The footage features Netanyahu talking with an aide while using humor and a pun about his love for coffee to dismiss the rumors. Reuters confirmed the video's location and timing. It is a rare public outing for the Israeli leader since the start of the war on February 28th. Strict emergency protocols remain in effect across Israel, banning public gatherings and keeping the majority of the population at home. The Republic of Congo held a presidential election on Sunday, widely expected to grant 82-year-old Denis Sassou Nguesso a 5th consecutive term in power. The incumbent faces 6 challengers in the presidential race. During the election, authorities restricted traffic in the capital Brazzaville and shut down the internet. Despite holding vast oil reserves, the Republic of Congo has extreme youth unemployment and massive international debt. Official results of the election will arrive within the next 14 days. Formula One and the FIA on Sunday officially announced the cancellation of the Bahrain Grand Prix and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix due to security risks from the Iran war. Both host nations suffered strikes during the recent regional conflict, prompting officials to prioritize the safety of the racing community. Announcing the decision ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai, F1 confirmed it would not seek replacement venues for the 2 April slots. This leaves a 5-week gap in the World Championship schedule until the Miami race in May. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali described the move as a necessary precaution given the volatile situation in the Middle East. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
After a chilly start, temperatures will climb rapidly this afternoon. In fact, some areas could see a difference of more than 15 degrees Celsius between morning and afternoon, so dressing in layers would be a great idea. But again, the air quality is not looking great today. Ultrafine dust levels have already climbed into the bad range across most regions, and with the atmosphere staying fairly stagnant, dusty conditions will persist throughout much of the country, except for the east of Gangwon-do province. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 13 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Daejeon, Gwangju will make it to 15 degrees, with more clouds moving in for the southern provinces. And it looks like rain is expected across much of the country on Wednesday. But aside from that, typical spring weather will continue for the time being, with large temperature swings from morning to night.
Now that's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.